Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Islanders. We hope you enjoy this edition.
Welcome to Labor Vision, a production of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. I'm your host, Erica Hammond, and today we're kicking off the first show of our series, Women at Work. And joined with me today to do so are Maureen, Secretary-Treasurer of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO, and Sarah Markey, Assistant Executive Director at NEARI. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you guys for this first show.
Excited to be here.
All right, so let's start with CLUW, the Coalition of Labor Union Women, which, Maureen, you are the president of, and both Sarah and I are members of. Can you start off with how CLUW came about nationally?
Sure, and to clarify, I'm really only the president of CLUW Rhode Island, not CLUW, so, which gives me something to aspire to. But you know, if we could go back maybe, I think it's 45 years since CLUW started in 1974, what it was like. Then I think there was a lot of feminism uprising, and there had been a few accidents, large-scale accidents at work, in workplaces, and a lot of women and young girls injured. And it was just time for women to step up within their unions. They realized that unions were being very slow at seeing women as a group to be organized. They were in so-called pink-collar jobs, low-wage workers, caretakers, and hospitality workers. And so the labor unions weren't really beating down the doors to organize them. Right. So a group of women sent out the word that said, it's time for us. And 3,000 women showed up in Chicago for a convention, and they started CLUW. And we now know CLUW nationally has 50 international unions, or national unions, working with them. They have 40 chapters all around the US and Canada, and one being Rhode Island. CLUW nationally thought they would get, organize women all around the country, just unify them into sort of the women's movement within the labor movement. And they wanted to promote affirmative action in the workplace, strengthen the role of women in their unions, and to organize the unorganized, and also to increase women's involvement, both politically and legislatively. Wow. So it was a lofty goal, and I think they've accomplished that.
Right.
And the 40 chapters, including Rhode Island, work on issues that are important to women and their families. They educate members and update members on those issues that are so important, and provide support for working women who perhaps don't feel as supported in their lives, or their work lives, or their personal lives.
That's awesome. And how did it get started? How did it get its start in Rhode Island?
So in the 90s, there was a CLUW chapter in Rhode Island, and they were quite active, and had done exactly what we talked about, educating members and working on issues important. And they kind of faded away for a little while. I think that there was this idea that we had come a long way, baby, and maybe some issues had been taken care of. And it just sort of went dormant for a while. And then a few years ago, some women were talking here in Rhode Island, and at the urging of, if I must say, George Nee, president of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO, a chapter was got rebirth to our Rhode Island chapter.
All right. And you started out from the beginning?
I did start out from the beginning, and we have about 40, almost 50 members, members or supporters, and from 12 different unions.
Okay.
So it's important, I think, to spread
Oh, absolutely.
the membership around to different unions to get different perspectives. So we range from nurses and teachers and hospitality workers and office workers to the building trades, women in the building trades. And so it's kind of a different perspective that comes.
Yeah.
And we learn a lot from each other. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
One of
And
the goals.
it keeps expanding, right? Every
It does.
year.
We work at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's CLUW is so relevant now because the issues are still out there that women really care deeply about in the workplace, and the statistics about women in the workplace are not always promising. They can be a little disappointing. For example, in 2008, women earned 78.7% of what their male colleagues earned, and
And I can say that's only white women.
yes,
Yes, so if you think about black and brown women,
yeah,
Right.
and Asian and native-born American women.
yeah, yeah. And
Those
so
numbers get larger.
No,
That
that's a great
difference.
point. It's while we've come a long way from when CLUW started nationally in the 70s, there are still so many issues and so many statistics to look at, both about women who are workers versus women who have influence and power as managers, and then also I think leadership and what leadership positions are filled by women. So CLUW, I think, plays a really important role right now in Rhode Island and across the country.
Absolutely. Can you go a little bit further into detail on some of those statistics around women in leadership
Yeah.
and
Sure.
other positions?
Yeah, so I think unions and organizations reflect the broader society, right? And so there's data, for example, on elected women that I think we can draw some learnings from, some conclusions from, that those learnings may apply to other organizations, right? So if you look at elected women right now, as of January 2019, 18% of governors in the country were women. 28% of the seats in the state legislature. Again, this is across the country. This is data from the Center for American Progress. So 28% of the legislative seats were held by women. In Congress, 24% of members of Congress are women. Less than 9% are women of color. And so when you look at that as almost a case study on women in leadership, it's concerning, right? And it's concerning because we need to be more reflective in leadership positions of the actual workforce, of the actual constituents.
And right, exactly. It's not just the workforce, but the communities which they serve.
That's right.
And the general population. When women are making up more than 50% of the U.S. population, I'm not seeing the connection where only 24%, right, are being represented in the Senate.
And I think even the best
Congress.
intentions of elected leaders, whatever the organization, whatever, it's not the same if you don't come from that community, that constituent group.
Absolutely.
It's just a little different.
Yep.
And so I thought especially the number on women of color in Congress was really staggering, and means that we have a lot of work to do in organizations as well, not just elected office.
Right. And for me, some of the most alarming statistics come when you're talking about professions and the professions that women are in and the populations which they make up, what percentage they make up of that workforce, and then how is that represented in leadership in that workforce. That's alarming as well.
Yeah, so I looked at data from, again, the Center for American Progress, and something that I thought was fascinating is if you look at the medical field, just take surgeons and physicians, for example, women make up 40% of surgeons and physicians. The number of women, the percentage of women that are medical school deans is 16%. So again, I think it comes back to this question of like, are we helping women have more influence in the workplace? And I think that's ultimately where CLUW comes in, at the workplace and the labor movement. It's a vehicle for people.
If you think about at such a level as being a doctor, if there is such a long road to get from being a doctor to being a leader in your community. You think about how that translates, and I think you had similar information about lawyers and other CEOs. It's the same no matter how high you go on the pay scale, I guess. Think about how it is for women who are in male-dominated building trades or low-wage workers such as hospitality workers, people who work in the back rooms, and healthcare workers who are underpaid 1,000 times over to be able to move forward into leadership positions. And I think that is where CLUW can come in.
Right.
And the issues, right? Yeah. So there's so much still to be done on the issues, like raising the minimum wage in Rhode Island. I think there are plenty of people, but lots of women who are impacted by that. Parental leave, paid parental leave. Right. There's so many issues that are still relevant to women and to workers that we need to address.
Yeah. I think one of the things CLUW can do too is really emphasize how things like flexible work hours, which are more important, it seems, to women because they have the double day, as they call it. They work all day at their job and then they work all night as a mother or a caretaker or a spouse. Right. Not to say men don't, but certainly has traditionally and historically been the job of women to kind of take care of the family. And sexual harassment, safety at work, a lot of issues are seen as women's issues. And I think it's important that CLUW, because we're the women's group within the labor, can really make those labor issues, not just women's issues.
And we saw that in our campaign, right? The Help a Sister Out period campaign. It wasn't just a women's issue, even though we were addressing menstrual products in the workplace, and it wasn't a women's issue, it was becoming a workforce health and safety issue.
That's a great example. That really is a great example that everybody thinks having your period is a woman's issue or a girl's issue, and that's right, it affects everybody.
And I mean, that's one of the things I love about the labor movement, right, is the inclusiveness and that something that could be sidelined as a women's issue becomes an issue for everyone, regardless of gender. And I think that's just an amazing trait of the labor movement, which means that then we can actually have more progress and address some of the issues that we mentioned earlier.
And because you see that, I think that says how effective CLUW has been over the years, because they saw that there was not that attitude, that there were some issues of women who were really not worth bothering to organize in the first place. And now they're just mainstream. And I mean, as you point out, we do still have all those same issues, you know, whether it's parental leave or flexible hours, safety at work, including sexual harassment, which of course has been highlighted because of the hashtag #MeToo movement and hashtag Our Turn and hashtag
and
whatever.
Before we wrap up, how are some of the ways that we can get involved in this more, and some of the ways that we can address this, viewers can address this right now?
Well, I think people should get involved in their union, right?
Absolutely.
The more actual inclusion and diversity there is on gender, race, ethnicity, the better we are as an organization.
Go to every meeting. Go to every union meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, go to your union meeting.
Right. If you're not there to represent yourself, who is going to represent you, right?
Absolutely.
You need to show up.
And get involved with CLUW.
Absolutely.
We have some ways people can get involved with CLUW. Give us a call, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and we can talk about whatever issues you have.
So just so viewers can see it as well, the Coalition of Labor Union Women RI is what you can type in to find us on Facebook. And if you're on Twitter, you can type in CLUWRI, so it's CLUWRI on Twitter. And you can also call the Rhode Island AFL-CIO phone number, and it will probably be Cheryl who will answer the phone, and she can get you a lot of information on CLUW and RI and how you can get involved. That phone number is 401-751-7100. And if you've missed any of this episode, if you're watching on TV, you can also catch us on our Labor Vision TV YouTube channel. So that's Labor Vision TV 1. And if you want some more of this information, there's plenty of it out there. A lot of the statistics that we found were from the Women's Fund. So if you check out some of their archives, that's some awesome, really great content that you can check out. All right, thank you so much, ladies, for having us.
Thank you, Erica.
All right, and for everyone watching at home, you're watching Labor Vision. We hope to see you back here next week. Thank you.
Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. This is part 2 in a series where we talk about the program at the Institute for Labor Studies and Research, where individuals become certified as teacher assistants. They go into the classroom, work with teachers, work with administrators, and more importantly, and most importantly, work with students. The Institute for Labor Studies and Research started this program 10 years ago in partnership with the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals. We worked with them in particular to take the curriculum that we currently have and to integrate into that curriculum components of it that were an outgrowth from the American Federation of Teachers in Washington, their program in education research and dissemination. Components of the program included managing antisocial behavior, teacher-parent involvement, thinking math, and a whole variety of other educational research-based programs that over the years have been integrated and modified to make the program as effective as it is. The faculty members who teach in the program are classroom teachers, classroom teacher assistants, school nurses, individuals who do it each and every day. So the applied pieces that take place in the training program come directly from what happens in the classroom as early as an hour before the class starts. Our guests today, as in the last segment, are Sabine Adrian, who is the Director of Adult Literacy, Adult Education Programs at the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Fatima Martin, who is the case manager for the Teacher Assistant Training Program, and again, who brings a rich history of English language learners to the program. And last but not least is Erica Hammond. Erica is the labor liaison at the Institute, who has taken on some of the input and design and enhancement of the individuals who are calling into the Institute for the program. I think it's really important to talk about the Teacher Assistant Training Program, Erica, how these are good paying jobs, good paying jobs that are represented by unions. They have good salaries, they have benefits, and I think one of the advantages are for anybody with a young family, these are kind of school hours. So you can have individuals who have children in school who can work in these jobs and still be home when their children leave for school and be home when their children get home. So there are many individuals that will make that choice because of the hours and because of the benefits and the salary.
Right.
Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. A lot of the time, one of the main questions individuals who call with interest of the Teacher Assistant Program will ask right before we hang up the phone will be, am I going to be able to get a job? Is this going to be a good job? About what the salary is? And that's different school district to district, but I always say yes, because you may have to sub, which is fine. There's always a need for substitute TAs. You may sub for a year, and that's your foot in the door with that school district or with that school. And once you are a full-time TA, those are union jobs. And those are jobs that have great benefits. You're in a union, you have the backing of that union, you have a livable wage. And so I always tell that to people. Once you have to be motivated to take this class because it is a commitment, and the individuals who call are motivated to take the class, and they want to take the class because they've heard the number of things that you can do with a teacher assistant certification, but they are always concerned if they're going to get a job and if it's going to be a good job. And that's the best part about having your teacher assistant certification, is that once you get a full-time job as a TA, you can join a union, and you will join a union. And I think that's really important for people to know.
I think over the years too, and we'll talk about this in a little bit with Fatima, that we have created partnerships with school districts and HR departments across the state, and it's not uncommon for the Institute to get a call saying school district is looking for a number of TAs or teacher assistant substitutes. But I want to get back to another point that we ended the last show on, and Sabine, I want you to talk about some of the partnerships in the community, like Comprehensive Community Action. We have partnered with them for 2 years now, and they have individuals, classes that actually come to the Institute.
Right, so we developed a separate class sessions for youth coming in through that partnership, and it was based on what worked best for that organization and those students, and we're happy to work with other community organizations and adult education programs in developing classes that work for different communities or different demographics. You're always welcome to call up the Institute, and we'll see what we can do together.
I think, too, taking a look at it over the last 2 years, you have been able to, we are currently finishing up a class that we're delivering in Central Falls with a faculty that are from Central Falls. They're Institute faculty members, but they're from that school department, school district. And I think you did the same thing we started with Cranston. So you're continuing to work in the community to be able to offer, I think Woonsocket is one you're working on now?
Yes, so Fatima can chime in as well, but we did pilot a new site class in Central Falls this year. Very excited to get that off the ground and bring this opportunity to other geographic locations, that where it's a little bit difficult for people to come to the program that we have running at the office.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So exactly, the need was there. They really wanted to involve their community in the school, and they just reached out to us and asked if we could have a class held in Central Falls School District. And this was months in the planning, and it just started last week. We had more than the number of people that we were supposed to have in a class, so there is a big demand for that. Also, other schools are interested. We throughout the last year, I have been connecting with different school districts in Providence, in Pawtucket, Woonsocket, Cranston. I'm sure there are some that I'm missing right now.
I think we actually just got a phone call or an email from South Kingstown looking for substitute TAs.
So they're
as well.
looking for, somehow they're hearing about this program, and it's just really getting out there, and it's just a lot of it word of mouth, and they are very interested, and also other organizations, so that if the school can't be part of that, creating a class in their community, the organizations, a sister organization can take part in that.
But I think it's important we make sure that before we go into a district, that we're talking with the president of the teacher union in that district and the president of the union who represents the TA, because this truly is a partnership.
Yes.
It's a partnership among the unions, among the school district, among administration and the institute.
And usually those are the first people I start looking into when I am in contact and planning phases with a district or anyone else. So that is very important. So it's really growing, and it is really important, and it is meeting a need, so we're hoping that it'll continue.
Let me put you on the spot. I want you to tell me a story about, think of a student who came in that was probably a little bit intimidated by taking the chance of becoming a TA, but somebody who knew they had some strong basic skills. Tell me about one of your success stories.
I have many, but just to bring one up right now, it's one individual who has a master's degree in environmental sciences. So this is someone who was a teacher in his country and taught science and did research, and really wants to get back in a classroom. And just it's sometimes hard for them to kind of, going from one level to start over again. But this is really not starting over. It's sort of
a foot in the door again.
It's a foot in the door again. It's just another. It's a pathway. He's recently here. He speaks several languages, so he's got a lot to offer. Plus his skills in his area, his field. And so he started as a TA in a high school, and from there he went on to another high school and another district. And this is someone who is working towards getting his credentials and sort of working his way to actually
become a teacher here.
And he could actually already be a sub for a teacher, subbing as a teacher.
And I think, but this opened a brand new door for us as well, because I think now we've taken a look at and are adding to the program by looking at the opportunities to bring people in who have degrees in a background that would be so valuable in the classroom.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we're working with the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, with the Rhode Island Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, to find out, okay, how can we create this pathway? I think the Department of Labor and Training for the state has been partnering with us to ensure that we can all move in that direction, because this is employment. This is bringing people in with a strong set of skills, a strong academic background from possibly outside the country, but like you say, somebody in environmental studies, somebody else with a background in some finance, or somebody else who may have a background in education in another country.
And several do have a degree in education, and so who would like to get back in a classroom. So instead of doing something else that he needs or she needs to use that skill, and I think the schools need it. I mean, they are in need of subs and TAs, and so this is just a perfect marriage.
One of the things that we're looking at, and I think we're going to be able to do it, is work with some school districts, because we found some funding that we will actually be able to put a student who has completed the classroom or completed the TA program in a school for 120 hours?
Yes, 120 hours. There's some, I think 15 spots for that. So we're working with several schools right now.
And so we'll be able to pay, or we can reimburse the school district, but for that 120 hours, we'll be able to support that teacher, that TA.
Right. That's right. So it'll be great for that TA, the new certified TA, and it'll be great for this school. And usually, I'm sure that this person will continue in the same school or same school district.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us. I think that I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize how much I appreciate the fact that the hours and the effort and the time that the three of you have put in growing this program. I want to give a sneak preview to the fact that we're now looking at creating a pathway to teaching, to become teachers for these individuals. I want to thank all three of you, Erica, Sabine, and Fatima, for your energy and your time and your commitment. And thank you for coming on the show to talk to people about our TA program at the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. There again is a enrollment taking place now in January, so if you want to call the Institute at 463-9900 to get more information and speak to any of these well-informed individuals who run the programs at the Institute. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching this program. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.